He's a man, such a man, such a man. He's a real man's man. He's a man, such a man.
Welcome back to ULTRASPECTICUS, a journey through classic Ultraman. Hard to believe we're almost done with our first Ultraman series, but here we are. Will we see Ultraman break out a new weapon, a new gimmick, maybe an ultimate form? No, of course not. This is the 1960s. We don't do that for a long, long time. So let's keep moving, you hip cats. Let's boogie. In episode 31, Who Goes There?, a member of the Science Patrol returns to Japan after a lengthy service in the Bolivia branch. But strange occurrences keep happening upon his return, and Ide is rightfully suspicious, especially when he asks questions about the special alloy in the steel reinforcement around this base.
藤隊員、この建物は何製ですか？なんでできてます？この建物。
あら、普通の鉄筋コンクリートよ。
いや、その鉄筋の中に特殊な合金が加えてある。
え？
あなたはそれを知りませんか？
知らないわ。でもそんなことはごく一部の人しか知らない秘密事項でしょ？
秘密事項。ね。
Cap finally gets suspicious and asks Ide to run a background check from Bolivia. But Ide can't reach them. At the same time, a strange plant that grows exponentially in a matter of hours gets their attention. It turns out to be carnivorous and is called Amazonian vampire plant Caronia. It seems this plant was found years ago by none other than our mystery guest's father. Coincidence? She sneaks in to investigate his room and we see Goto is not quite human now. He zaps her with laser eyes and renders her unconscious. Hayata sneaks into his room and finds some vegetation on Goto's belongings. Lab findings indeed prove Caronia is alien and after human blood, and it came to Japan using Goto as a host. Meanwhile, the Caronia plant has grown and wreaks havoc in the factories and refineries.
I'm just a mean green mother from outer space and I'm bad.
The Cap orders the crew to head out in the jet VTOLs. Ide and Arashi see Hayata run off for some reason. They call out to him, but he either ignores them or doesn't hear. Wink, wink. He finds a shady spot and transforms to deal with the plant. And a UFO attack force. Oh yeah, did I not mention that? Because there's that too now. In episode 32, Endless Counterattack, another visitor comes to Japan. The team draws straws to see who gets to show them around.
これで残りは当選に決定というわけですね。では行ってまいります。おい、早田、おい。あれ？なんだこれ？何もついてない。
Our hero, a big stinky cheater.
Hayata escorts this new agent named Patty from the India branch to Japan. Meanwhile, a construction crew sees a mountain catch fire and they run for their lives. The crew heads out to suppress the fire and Hayata is alerted as well, so he and Patty run to help. The VTOL uses a new extinguisher chemical to douse the flames. It works! Neato. Just then a new monster attacks another chemical plant. This monster, named Zumbalar, has glowing scales and fiery breath. Patty and Hayata are stopped by a rock slide en route. Zumbalar trashes the plant with its limbs as it burns down around them. Hayata and Patty open fire, but it doesn't work, of course.
君は休暇中なんだ。マジのことあってはいけない。
大丈夫、任しといて。
The crew arrives in the VTOL and douses the flames, and Zumbalar disappears in the smoke. It returns and heads for more populated areas. On patrol again, Hayata runs off and heads to the high ground to see if he can spot the monster, which he does. Hayata almost transforms, but Patty runs up to tell him she's not running away. She's a member of the crew too, after all. Zumbalar easily busts its way through the tanks, shooting at it. The crew opens fire with the VTOL, and Ide tries his latest invention, freezing bullet, which kinda slows it down, but it doesn't help much. Honestly, did you think it would? Hayata tries to help Patty, who passed out, while the crew goes for a ground attack. Arashi is hurt before he can use his spider shot, and Patty tells Hayata to go ahead.
Hayata, 行ってちょうだい。
パティ。
人間引き際が大事ですから。私は別の方法で協力します。
じゃあ。
Good luck.
Hayata slips away and transforms and fights Zumbalar. In episode 33, The Forbidden Words, the crew enjoys a sky festival. Fuji brings her little brother Satoru, who begins to hear voices in his head. No one else hears this, and Fuji thinks he's crazy, until Hayata spots a floating boat. Wait, what the hell?
Love boat! Something is something to everyone! The love boat!
They get into the company car and follow it. Suddenly the jets from the air show disappear and the boat explodes. The crew back at HQ saw the whole thing on TV. Cap tells the crew to check it out, and they wonder what could be causing this. Gee, I don't know, maybe aliens? To be fair, they've been recently dealing with mummies and yetis and subterranean creatures, so aliens are due for a comeback.
上へ落ちるですって？ええ。上へ落ちるというのはおかしな表現だが、逆引力というか、特定の空間内で重力が逆に働いた結果、そういう現象が起きたのではないかと思う。
The crew takes the VTOL into space. Remember, it has rocket boosters now, and they discover a ton of wreckage and debris floating around. They spot the company car, but Hayata, Fuji, and Satoru are nowhere to be found. Luckily, they get a call about Fuji, and she's back on Earth. And she's big. She's giant-sized and is walking through town. They try to talk her down, but she doesn't respond. Meanwhile, the alien who captured them appears before Satoru, introducing itself as Alien Mephiles. Instead of invading and trying to take over the Earth by force like all the others, he detests violence and tries to take it another way. He offers a trade, the Earth for another planet. Satoru refuses, and Mephiles tries to get him to change his mind. Shouldn't he be doing this with the UN, or at least the Prime Minister? I don't know. He offers him eternal life on his planet, but Satoru still refuses. Mephiles decides to try Hayata next. He knows he's Ultraman. Oh look, another alien that did his homework. He laughs at Mephiles trying to take this planet, and says he won't let him. He goes for his beta capsule, but Mephiles freezes him in place. The cops try to shoot her, and the crew stops them, thank God. She vanishes, and then we see some familiar faces. Baltan, Zarab, and another monster, Kimur. Mephiles says he will attack the city with these three if they don't surrender. The defense force finds his ship and tries to attack, but he shoots them down. The VTOL tries to as well. The crew sneaks aboard and find Hayata frozen in place. and don't bother to question his pose or what's in his hand. They get the others down by hitting the buttons on the console, but the ship begins to shake. Ide asks what to do about Hayata, but Cap says there's no time and leaves him to die. Wow, thanks, asshole.
God damn it! You never leave a man behind!
Fortunately, Hayata falls over and the capsule activates when it hits the ground. Convenient. Ultraman gets out of there just in time before the ship explodes, and for all they know, Hayata died in there. Again, thanks, guys. Great teamwork.
よそウルトラマン、宇宙人同士が戦ってもしようがない。私が欲しいのは地球の心だったんだ。だが私は負けた。子供にさえ負けてしまった。しかし私は諦めたわけではない。いつか私に地球を売り渡す人間が必ずいるはずだ。必ず来るぞ。
In episode 34, A Gift from the Sky, it's snowing in Japan, and then it turns to rain. Hayata is ordered to bring Cap an umbrella. Man, first he abandons Hayata, and now he abuses his authority. What the hell, Cap? Later, a giant fireball fell from the sky in the middle of the night. Sure enough, it was a giant monster, Skydon. Get it? 'Cause it fell from the sky? Ugh.
Not funny!
It has fire breath and begins to set everything ablaze. The VTOL gives it everything they have, but not a scratch. Skydon then passes out. The next morning, the crew plans an operation to get rid of it. In the morning, it wakes up and they grab it with wires and hoist it up and throw it back into space. But Skydon is too massive and too heavy to transport, and the jets are pulled down. This thing's built like a brick outhouse. Even Ultraman tries to do something but can't seem to phase it. He can't even lift it up or toss it around like other monsters. Doing all that drained his energy, it seems. Skydon then goes back to sleep, and Ultraman decides to leave for now. Well, they try several things to get the heavy Skydon back into space, but they all fail. Now what? Then they get the plan to pump Skydon full of hydrogen by... Oh dear God. You people are sick! They pump Skydon with hydrogen, and it begins to float away. They begin to celebrate again, but some fighter jets, unaware of the situation, shoot Skydon down. Oh my God, this is becoming a regular Looney Tunes cartoon. Fuji gets the bad news and tells the others. Hayata runs outside and transforms. Ultraman runs head-on into the falling Skydon, blowing it to bits with a new attack, Aerial Body Strike. Thankfully, that did the trick, and the team finally is able to relax. Hey, whatever works, I guess. In episode 35, The Monster Graveyard, the crew patrols space again in the jet VTOL. Ide and Arashi see something float by. Soon they begin to see all the monsters Ultraman defeated in the past. They dub it the Ultra Zone. They spot one creature never seen before and tell the others about this monster graveyard. Later, Ide thinks they should have a monster funeral for all the monsters they and Ultraman have beaten. Hayata storms out after hearing this and goes outside to speak his piece to his fallen foes. I kind of agree with him. He busted his butt to beat all those guys and they want to honor them. He then becomes Ultraman again. But here's a surprise. Ultraman legit feels regret for all the monsters he had to kill, proving that he's a reluctant hero and not a cold-blooded killer like some would believe he is. So the crew goes through with the monster funeral. Each fallen monster is celebrated and wished peace in the afterlife. Do you want to tell them that 90% of these monsters will come back in future series, or should I? Believe me, death is a minor inconvenience at best for Kaiju and Ultraman. Meanwhile, some scientists fire a rocket into space. Sure enough, it collides with the mystery beast in the Ultra Zone. It rides the rocket to Earth, and the crew attacks in the jet VTOLs, and the monster doesn't even fight back. It climbs the tallest building in town and seems to be reaching up to the heavens. It must be wanting to go back to its final resting place. It jumps off the building. I guess it's trying to fly back, but it fails. It wanders aimlessly into the night, not attacking, just being melancholy. Poor thing, it just wants to go home. The next day, the jet VTOLs launch wires that'll drag the monster to a rocket, which they prepare to shoot into space to send it home. Wait, we're trying to send a monster back into space. Didn't we literally just do this plot one episode ago? Hayata shows up and transforms, but now the monster is seemingly mad and Ultraman attacks it. Then we get a bunch of still shots. Did the show budget run out or something? Ultraman picks the alien up and tries to send it back to space, but the fight took too long and the color timer runs out, so Ultraman has to drop him. The crew then gets the idea to make a rocket that looks like Ultraman.
一つだけ方法があります。なんだ？ロケットをウルトラマンにするんです。奴はウルトラマンが宇宙へ連れて行こうとしたことは知ってます。だからロケットをウルトラマンの格好にすれば。なるほど。よし。博士に頼んで大至急壊れたロケットを修繕してもらおう。しわっけ！くそ！
I literally can't believe that worked. In episode 36, Don't Shoot, Arashi, Cap, Fuji, and Arashi visit the Dome Children's Center, an amazing indoor facility with a concrete ceiling painted to look just like real sky. Suddenly the place shakes and an intense light comes out of the sky, blinding several people. Ide shows blueprints for his latest weapon, the QX gun, which will supposedly take out anything in an instant. I'll take that bet. Meanwhile, a new monster appears out of this red smoke and wrecks the town. Arashi uses Spider Shot, and this new monster blinds him with the same intense light from before.
Blinded by the light.
Fuji calls for backup, and the team attacks in the VTOLs. They manage to score a hit, but the same red smoke from before seeps out, and it comes back even more angrier than before. Cap is ordered by the military brass to fall back.
今度のザラガスは今までの怪獣とは違う。奴は攻撃すればするほど凶暴になっていくじゃないか。完全に一発で倒せる方法がない以上、ザラガスをむやみに刺激するわけにはいかん。そうだな、村松君。
Arashi is pissed they can't fight back, but orders are orders. Ide wants to try his new weapon, but they can't until they get the okay from the higher-ups. When Zeragas has some children at its mercy, Arashi and Hayata try to save them. He aims the QX gun, and even though he's not supposed to shoot it, he does anyway. It seems the new gun did some damage, but the center is still wrecked. Is aware of what happened, but he still has to punish Arashi for defying orders. Arashi visits Hayata and the kids in the hospital. He and the kids know Arashi did the right thing, and he boards the VTOL alone, determined to shoot Zeragas down and take it out himself. Cap and the others scream at him not to fire as it'll anger Zaragas even more. Hayata leaves the hospital bed, runs to the roof, and transforms, despite being somewhat still blind. Once he disposes of Zaragas, Arashi is reinstated. Good for him. In episode 37, A Little Hero, a familiar monster appears in the downtown shopping center. It's our old friend Pigmon. It seems he wasn't dead after all and he doesn't attack anybody. The crew are contacted to bring him in. Pigmon, passed out next to the toys. The Ultraman toys to be precise. Real subtle, guys. It seems Pigmon is trying to tell them something when it wakes up, but they can't understand him. They take Pigmon back to HQ and call in a specialist, Professor Gonda, a scientist who is studying dolphin language and may be able to help understand Pigmon. Gonda listens and tries to decipher this alien language, but finds it very complicated. Arashi chews out Ide for not having the Spider Shot and Mars 133 repaired. Yeah, because they've been so strikingly useful in the past. Ide reveals he's been building a monster translator and is almost done with it. That explains why he's had no time to fix the weapons. Hayata checks on Ide, who confesses how he feels useless. No matter how much the crew tries with his inventions, it's always Ultraman who saves the day. Nothing he invents seems to pay off. Hayata tries to reassure him that they have indeed worked out in the past. Hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day, Ide. Meanwhile, Pigmon is freaking out over something and Gonda can't determine what. At the same time, a new monster rises up. And it's not alone. Some familiar foes rise up too. The next morning, the crew prepares the monster translator Ide worked all night on. Pigmon talks into the device, and it works. It turns out it's a warning. Monsters defeated by Ultraman and the crew will be revived thanks to a new monster, Geronimon. These monsters are planning an assault on the base in 5 hours. 60 monsters to be precise. Wait a minute, has Ultraman beaten that many before?
科学特捜隊とウルトラマンに倒された怪獣たちがゲロニモンの力で命を復活して科学特捜隊に復讐するため総攻撃をかける。
怪獣総攻撃？
ピグモン、本当なの？
あと5時間で世界各地から60匹以上の怪獣が日本に集結する。今のうちに早くジェロニモンを倒せ。
ジェロニモン？
ジェロニモンは怪獣の酋長だ。超能力を持っている。注意せよ。
Pigmon says it'll guide them to the monster. They spot 2 past monsters, Duraco and Telesdon, sleeping. They land the VTOL and go to deal with them, but they tell Pigmon to stay behind because it's too dangerous. When the crew heads out, they wake up. They need Ultraman, but Cap says they must hold the line for now. They blast him with their sidearms and manage to knock Telesdon out. Ide calls out for Ultraman, but Hayata can't transform in front of everybody. Pigmon distracts it, but gets attacked by Duraco.
People! People! People!
Hayata then slaps Ide to get him to stop relying on Ultraman and fight back after Pigmon sacrificed itself for them. Ide then uses his newest weapon, the Spark 8, to take down Duraco, which it does. Now Geronimon, without any revived monsters, rises up. The crew opens fire, but it engulfs them with some bad breath, blowing them away. This gives Hayata the chance to slip away and become Ultraman. It tries to blast Ultraman, who uses a barrier to block it. He lifts it up in the air, giving Ide a chance to use the Spark 8 again, blasting it to bits. Ide is overjoyed that he took out the Monster of the Week for a change. And the crew congratulates Ide on a job well done. Hayata carries Pigmon's body out to them, and they pay their respects to their fallen friend. Cap makes Pigmon an honorary SSSP member for its service. Well, that was nice of him. In episode 38, Starship Rescue Command, the V2 space station is studying a Planet Q with the new Prospector probe. Suddenly, the entire lab is blinded. They call in the crew for help, and the crew is headed out to the space in their new ship, the Shiratori. Once they launch, Ide reveals yet another new weapon, the needle-type S-80. It's supposedly 10 times more powerful than the Spider Shot. Where does he come up with these names? Besides, didn't he just make a new weapon last episode that killed a monster?
Oh, who remembers?
Nah, whatever. Show's almost over. The crew finds the science team blinded by the light, but other than that, they're fine. Ide discovers a fuse has been blown, and without it they can't get back. However, the probe has a spare one they can use to get back. But they have to venture to this Planet Q to get it, and whatever attacked the science team is waiting for them. The crew lands on Planet Q, and we see two new monsters duking it out. Keela, a beetle monster, and Saigo, a quadruped-like monster. It seems Keela has the upper hand, so Saigo flees. The crew lands and have 1 hour to get the fuse from the probe. They head out in a Land Rover, but get stuck in a ravine due to the planet's rocky terrain. Even worse, Saigo appears in front of them. They use the rover's missiles, freezing it and killing it. They manage to get free and locate the probe and proceed on foot to it. Ide procures the fuse, but Keela spots them and Arashi gets trigger-happy and fires. But that only angers it. Keela blinds Arashi, so they have to make a break back to the Land Rover. They try to make it back to the ship, but a rock slide traps them. With no way out, Hayata distracts it while the others make a beeline for the ship.
僕は嵐を見てます。迎えに来てください。すぐ出発だ。奴はまだ頑張ってますよ。僕が取りになります。よし。BM フューズを忘れるな。はい。
Hayata uses the new S-80 to distract it. Cap gets a crazy idea to puncture their oxygen tanks and use them to propel him and Ide to the ship. Which they do, and it works. Keela spots them and heads towards the ship. Hayata has no choice but to transform. Ultraman uses some new tricks. Ultra Psychonesis followed by the Ultra Attack beam. Trippy. Well, here we are, episode 39, Farewell Ultraman. What better way to end this series but with a full-on invasion? A huge squadron of ships head to Earth. They look very similar to flying saucers. Thankfully, satellite broadcasts inform every single branch of the Science Patrol of the impending danger.
キャップ、パリ本部からの緊急指令です。読みます。円盤らしき飛行物体群の地球侵入はグリニッジ標準時間0時24分と判明した。各国支部とも防衛体制を密にせよ。ただし円盤群の飛来目的は未だ不明である。よってむやみに攻撃してはならない。以上です。
グリニッジ0時24分というと日本では9時24分。あと40分しかないぞ。
And the crew gird their loins for this invasion. Professor Iwamoto tells them that this is not the first time these ships have been sighted here.
侵略だとおっしゃるんですか？
間違いないね。空飛ぶ円盤は1930年以来頻繁に地球に現れている。あれは偵察に来てたんだ。だが今度の場合スケールから言っても単なる偵察ではない。
地球総攻撃。
敵は40年間もそのチャンスを狙っていた。
As the clock ticks down and the ships close in, the crew and defense force prepare to fight. As predicted, the incoming groups of ships are hostile and appear on radar. It seems like they have the upper hand and the numbers to assure victory. They waste no time shooting the fighter planes out of the sky with ease. They seem to be targeting the SSSP and Ultraman, so the crew has no choice but to meet this challenge head on. They manage to fend off the first wave, but a saboteur posing as the professor enters the base. They blast the imposter, who says the word Zeton before dying. The mothership then rises up and some big blue orb emerges from it. The orb is of course hiding a giant monster, Zeton. The crew fights back, but to no avail. The real Professor Iwamoto has regained consciousness inside the HQ, so Arashi and Hayata try to help him. But of course, Hayata slips off to become Ultraman. When he arrives, Ultraman spins rapidly and uses a new technique called catch rings to detain Zeton, which it easily breaks out of. The crew sees Ultraman fighting Zeton, who begins to teleport all over the place, even breaking Ultraman's Ultra Slash like it's nothing. It seems our hero has met his match this time. Zeton easily overpowers Ultraman, even absorbing his Spacian beam and throwing it back at him, hitting right in his color timer. Ultraman falls to the ground unconscious. It looks like our hero is done for, Toku faithful. Zeton sees them and prepares to attack headquarters. Professor Iwamoto reveals a new weapon and gives it to Arashi.
真下前、科学センターで昨日完成したばかりの新兵器、これを持ってきたまえ。はい、ありがとうございます。試作品だからこれ一発しかない。子孫にいるじゃないぞ。はい、行こう。よし。
Suddenly, another Ultraman appears. Wait, what?
Ultraman!
Ultraman の2人。
いや、光の国の使いだよ。
Wait, how the hell do you know about that? Did Ultraman give you an interview or something? Anyway, this other Ultraman becomes a red energy ball that absorbs the original Ultraman into it. This other Ultraman is revealed to be Zophi, the Intergalactic Defense Force member from Nebula M78. He's here to take Ultraman back to the Land of Light. But he tells him his body is not his own, and if he returns, Hayata will die. Zophi says he has done enough for the Earth and should come back home. But Ultraman won't sacrifice Hayata as he's a good person.
ウルトラマン、お前はもう十分地球のために尽くしたわ。地球人が許してくれるだろう。
隼人は立派な人間になり、犠牲にはできない。私は地球に残る。
地球の平和は人間の手で掴み取ることに価値がある。ウルトラマン、いつまでも地球にいてはいかん。
ゾフィ、それならば私の命を隼人にあげて地球を去りたい。
お前は死んでもいいのか。
構わない。私はもう2万年も生きたのだ。地球人の命は非常に短い。
Zophi agrees, and he brought 2 lives with him. Wait, lives? He brought lives with him, like in a video game? Is it too late to point out that Ultraman doesn't make a lick of sense? So anyway, he gives one to Hayata and the other to Ultraman and separates the two. The crew watches Ultraman leave as Zophie takes him home. They bid him farewell as Hayata wakes up and rejoins the team. He recognizes the red sphere he crashed into and has no memory of what transpired since. Everyone says fare thee well to Ultraman, who hopes that Earth will be filled with peace and light. Thank you, Ultraman, for everything.
人類の平和と正義を守るため、遥か M78 星雲からやってきたウルトラマン。凶暴な怪獣たちを倒し、宇宙からの侵略者と戦ってくれた我らのウルトラマンが、とうとう光の国へと帰る日が来たのです。ウルトラマンもこの地球が平和な光に満ちた星となることを祈っているに違いない。ウルトラマンありがとう。ウルトラマンさようなら。
I don't know about you folks, but this ending was kinda anticlimactic. So that was Ultraman. Honestly, what can I say about this show? It's a triumph of 60s science fiction. In fact, I would probably rate it very high with other groundbreaking shows of that decade. America gave the world Star Trek, the UK gave the world Doctor Who, and Japan gave the world Ultraman. I think it, like those two, have stood the test of time and cemented itself as a pop culture icon. Unlike Kamen Riders or Metal Heroes, or to a lesser extent some Sentai, Ultraman is instantly recognizable, even to a random casual person on the street who may have never even seen the show before. Much like Godzilla or Superman would be. Ultraman has become an influential beacon of light, not only in Japan, but the world. Well, that's it for this edition. Check back next time and we'll be starting with lucky number 7. No, not the 7th Ultra series, but the new Ultra in town, Ultra 7. It's less confusing than it sounds. And I'll see you in the land of light.
What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. Say it again now. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. Yes, he is.
はい、こちら家督隊本部。何ですって？晴海の埋め立て地に赤い火の玉が。了解。
嵐で起きろよほら。
キャップ。
分かった。最新出動だ。ありがてえ。出動ですね。ありがてえはいいが枕をちゃんと返してこい。それあり？